I'm glad you brought up the RSS, because the RSS plays a really hefty role in today's political victory for the BJP. And we've talked about the RSS before, and I believe you called them a terrorist organization in so many words. And I've called them the KKK of India, because they have this goal of creating India as an ethno state, where India is a country that is only for Hindus. So Modi, who's once again going to be India's prime minister, is a lifelong member of the RSS. And let's talk a little bit about the relevance of that. So to lay the groundwork for that, I want to talk about how in 1971, almost 50 years ago, Modi joined the RSS as a pracharak, which is a full-time worker for the RSS. Then in 1980, the RSS founded the BJP. And in 1985, the RSS assigned Modi to work within the BJP. Then in 2001, Modi was appointed, not elected, as Chief Minister of Gujarat, which was his first political office ever. And 4 months later, he was elected as an MLA in Gujarat. But then 4 days after that, there was this pogrom in Gujarat against Muslims. And thereafter, in 2005, Narendra Modi was banned from entering the United States. And then groups in the US, like Overseas Friends of the BJP, began this systematic campaign to organize video conferences with Narendra Modi and the Indian American diaspora, and really promote him and build up his image within the diaspora. And in that context, in context of that long history of Modi working within the RSS and rising up through its ranks to finally achieve his first political office via appointment, and so on, is Modi just your average politician? Or is it possible, if I can ask a loaded question, is it possible that Modi was groomed to be prime minister over these past 50 years, and that Modi is actually a 50-year project of the RSS?
I think I can't really tell that whether it's a 50 years project or not, but RSS has been quite grooming a lot of these kind of characters as a possible leaders. What has happened, RSS was not very happy when Vajpayee became the prime minister in the 98, and then the way things went for the 5-6 years.
And this is because Vajpayee, he was not a member of the RSS, is that correct?
He was saying that he is a member of Sangh, but he comes from this Nehruvian politics. He has, he was more socialist in heart. So somehow he was much more progressive in that sense. Of course, he took the help of this. He used RSS. He used this, Hindutva organizations to come to power. But he was the face. So he knew that he's one because he is acceptable because he's face as a moderate leader. So he was a moderate. He didn't push the agenda of RSS, particularly like, the school books and all kinds of things which they wanted to change. So he was the one who was resisting. And RSS...
that is a key agenda item of the RSS.
Oh, yes.
To basically rewrite history and change the curriculum that's taught in schools about the history of India and even the modern history of India.
Absolutely, because RSS is ashamed of Hindu history. The history which has been told to or been produced by the historians, the regular historians. They want their own way of history, just put it that way bluntly, because they want to create a myth of from the defeatist, from the kind of fighting Hindu rulers, to make them some kind of messiahs and some kind of creating heroes. That's their project. Creating heroes out of non-heroes. And that's what they have been trying to do. And I think this is where the history book writing was a major project, not only history book, there are all kinds of things in the, there are three ways I think India has been, is not only democracy, secularism, but also scientific value. The scientific temper which Nehru brought in, that is also a target of RSS, a major target, not only democracy, not only secularism. So the third one is scientific temper, and that comes with all these, the social science temper as well as the natural science temper. So I think this is
on that point, not to derail the conversation, but if the RSS has a goal of targeting even the scientific temper of India and taking control of that, that does seem to fit in with the model of India under BJP RSS regime as a fascist authoritarian state. Because in science, a key aspect of science is to be an independent thinker, to think outside the box, to question.
That is not allowed. That's the question is not. And it's always, they go back to the thousands years of years. This was already happened. So I think it's nothing that happening now. It has been happening for the last 5 years. The scientific temper of the country has been completely marginalized by RSS, and it will be probably gone to the dust in the coming years. And I think this is where the challenge lies. That when they were not happy with going back to our conversation, where Bajpayee was not really a perfect candidate to push, and I think since then they put a lot of resources to make Modi the next leader. I think the process started from 2000 onwards. They realized the program or riot, whatever happened, 2000 Muslims got killed in Gujarat. That is the way they realized that the Modi became popular with the larger the Hindutva forces all over the country. Because for the first time, they thought there is a government led by somebody who is actually directing, promoting, and protecting or promoting the terror against Muslims and protecting the forces who are doing it. And so I think
that incident then could you say that incident really sealed his street credibility, in the sense that a lot of people over the past 5 years, 10 years have said, look, that's never been repeated. That hasn't happened again. That was a one-off incident in, way back in 2002, 17 years ago. And yet, if we look at this in context of them potentially grooming Modi to be the leader over these past 20 years since 2000, then that incident really sealed his street credibility and demonstrated his willingness to do that.
Absolutely, because without 2002, 2000 Muslims being killed in Gujarat, Modi wouldn't have never been a Modi.
He wouldn't be popular.
He wouldn't be Modi. Modi became a Modi because of the 2002 killing of 2002 killing of 2000 Muslims. That's what made him Modi. And since then, he projected this image as a Hindu. He became a Hindu Hruday Samrat. He was the one who could really use this kind of.
What does that mean?
He is the ruler of the Hindu hearts. So that's what it means, and that's where he also, because Gujarat is a border state to Pakistan, he also created anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistan image quite a lot while he was a chief minister. That is the time they realized he was the leader who will be really able to take over, because after Bajpayee, Advani was the other. So Advani was, when they realized their chance has come to take the power in 2013, they realized the 2014 election, the Congress and the Congress-led government has been unpopular and the corruption scandals. This is the time when they can win. So they replaced Advani with the Modi. So that's where the real role of RSS came. So I will agree, probably RSS realized Modi's value to take over the leadership of, to be the prime minister, their prime ministerial candidate after 2002.
So at this point then, as we began the conversation with you commenting that India has basically become a one-man rule under this BJP figurehead Modi, and that he has been basically created by the RSS. Let's start to wrap up as we return again to some words that were offered by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And he quoted John Stuart Mill, who warned that those interested in preserving democracy should not, quote, lay their liberties at the feet of even a great man, or to trust him with power which enables him to subvert their institutions. And Ambedkar warned that no nation can be grateful to great men at the cost of its liberty, and further warned that hero worship is a sure road to degradation and to eventual dictatorship. So by 2024, Modi will have been in power for 10 years, for a decade. Do you think Modi is the object of hero worship? And has he been entrusted with too much power? And do you see the subversion of Indian institutions either today or in the near future under Modi's regime?
Modi has been created some kind of a godly figure or a near to the god for a large number of his followers, even after 2014 election victory. And since then, he has been really created an image of a strong man and of being only person who will be, ruling the country. And that, I think, has this kind of hero worship, creating that image of the great leader. And these are the things which has been going on for 5 years. It will be certainly lead to much more now, because it was not a fluke in 2014. So he has come back to the power, come back now to the power, not again on the development agenda, but a very clean, clear Hindutva agenda, that anti-Muslims, anti-Pakistan, anti-Kashmir. These are the three things which has brought Modi now to the power. And this is where his stock goes up quite much more than even the last 5 years. He will be considered much more than a god, probably by as he used to be before, by his own followers, but large number of other people. I mean, those who are, because as I could see, you could see now, there is a media, others, those who are trying to resist it, they are also falling in the line. It's a 5 years, they were expecting some kind of a spy, but they probably now will fall in line with this. And that is what is happening. Because in India, as I was mentioning, institutions are not that strong, but even the individuals are also come to crumble with the institutions. So I think this is where the Modi being as not only a strong man, but as a leader, the great leader who will be, who has not only ruined the most part of the democratic institutions of the country or democratic values of the country. I think that in the next 5 years, this probably will bring a death knell to India's democracy.
A death knell to India's democracy. And so then, democratic rights, individual liberties, do you feel that they're safe under a Modi regime?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The minority rights will have no, minority rights have been trampled quite a lot in the last 5 years. Besides the minority rights, we are having a problem of the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. These are all kinds of ways the things have been. It's not only the state directly, also the forces, the Hindutva forces. You are threatened by the state or by state security agencies, or you are threatened by the Hindutva gangs going around, like what we've seen. Taking a cow on the street, you will be killed, but nothing will happen. So these are the things which will go on, and will be much worse now.
And so, especially as you mentioned, the freedom of expression. Now that one, freedom of expression, speech, the right to publish, these sorts of things, freedom of religion, these things are foundational in my mind, I think in many people's minds, to a democratic society. And one example, stirring example that has stood out to me for many months now is from last year, where a high school teacher in India, wrote on Facebook that voting for Modi is like garlanding a dog. And I don't endorse that sort of rhetoric. I think that there are better, more constructive ways to express dissent. But as a consequence of his words, offensive words.
Yeah. But this is a free world. I mean, what
This
is
is
the
a free
harm in
world.
this?
We would hope this would be a free world. But as a consequence of his words, he was arrested.
Yes.
And there are many other examples of people being arrested for doing things as simple as sharing political memes on social media, let alone making comments in public which are interpreted as anti-national. So your take on that?
Look, I am able to talk to you like this freely because I do work for Uppsala University, Sweden. If I am working for an Indian university, I will not be able to do it. By this time, probably people would have been, I mean, I wouldn't have reached that stage. By before that, I would have been attacked. I mean, now this is happening quite a lot. I mean, there are many of my colleagues or friends those who work for Indian universities. They are as upset as angry I am about
Ashok, are you there?
This is where the
Ashok. Yeah, we lost internet connection for just a moment. I apologize about that. But if you can briefly recap. Hello.
Yeah, now it started buffering again. Yeah, now it's great.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can see you. Yeah. So can you briefly recap?
I think what has happened, as I was saying, that there have been many people in India. They do, particularly my colleagues, those who are working in the Indian universities, Indian institutions, work in the research institutions. They are also as upset, as angry as like me about the way the Indian democracy is declining. The Indian democracy is under threat. The inclusive value of India is under threat. These are the things which they are quite upset about. Still, they are not able to, because if they will bring up this issue, they will talk about it, they will be targeted.
Yes, and I actually just today, I heard from a professor at a university in Delhi who teaches law and was talking about their consideration about the upcoming curriculum for the next school year. And they were weighing whether or not to teach a class about legal history based on the results of the election, because they were worried that if they teach that class and BJP has won, that things that they say in that class could come back to hurt them. So to wrap up and return once more to Dr.
I was just to quickly, I was writing for the two main publishing houses in India. Both of them, just before few months before the elections, the editors were changed, and I'm not anyway accepted there. I mean, they don't want to touch my pieces. That's what's happening.
So to return to Dr. Ambedkar, he argued that we must make our political democracy a social democracy as well, and that political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it social democracy. He warned what we must do is not to be content with mere political democracy. And so as the BJP is celebrating today's victory via political democracy, how do you feel about the future of social democracy in India? In the future coming, do you see peace or conflict in India?
I think you see, I do see that there is in immediate future there will be a larger conflict. The issues doesn't look good to me, and things will be much more problematic. And there will be it depends. There are two ways it can proceed. One is probably a peaceful one, resistance, where the larger number of people come to the street. Either we restrain the authority or change remove the authority. The second one will be if it doesn't happen, there is a possibility of a civil war, and then then the situation might go out of hand. In that sense, I don't see any more riots or something. It will be either a peaceful resistance or a civil war. And if that is the case, peaceful resistance will bring good for India, because it will really create certain kind of, again, solidarity among the people, because which the India probably had issues after taking the freedom for granted for several years, for several decades. But if it goes to the civil war, of course, any civil war will come to an end, but what kind of end, no one can predict at this stage. So I think it has two possibilities. Either the country will be leading to a better future if the people will come together. If they don't, they let the minority to suffer and suppress and being victimized, then things will get out of the control.
Okay. Professor Swain, thank you for your perspective today. And I think we're both on the same page in hoping for a peaceful future for India where liberty is preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice talking to you, Peter.